Absolutely, absolutely. As we speak, I was already identifying the main themes for my content calendar for 2026. For the next 18 months, I have already planned out the big themes for what content is going to be It is going to be put on every month with lives and writing and copywriting and preparing content from my case studies, from everything that's happening. Because believe it or not, Regen, it's the case studies and what happens to people that people.
Welcome to Career Coaching Secrets, the podcast where we talk with successful career coaches on how they built their success and the hard lessons they learned along the way. My name is Davis Nguyen, and I'm the founder of Purple Circle, where we help career coaches scale their business to $100,000 years, $100,000 months, and even $100,000 weeks. Before Purple Circle, I've grown several 7- and 8-figure career coaching businesses myself, and have been a consultant at 2 career coaching businesses that are doing over $100 million each. Whether you're an established coach or building your practice for the first time, you'll discover the secrets to elevating your coaching business.
Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of Career Coaching Secrets podcast. I'm your host Rexhen, and today's guest is Tanya Podvrsan, a trilingual international career coach, HR consultant, and LinkedIn top voice with over 25 years of experience in global recruitment and talent mobility. As the founder of TePe Talks, Tanya specializes in guiding expats, adult third culture kids, and multicultural professionals through career transitions, outplacement, and intercultural integration, with a unique focus on navigating Anglo job markets without losing authenticity. She also works with global companies and academic institutions to support international mobility, inclusive hiring, and global employability through tailored coaching, training, and HR consulting. And it's a pleasure for me to have her on the podcast today. Welcome to the show, Tanya.
Thank you, Regen. Thank you for having me. I'm happy to be here.
Thank you for coming, Tanya. It's a pleasure to have you on. So I'd like to know a little bit about how you got started as a coach. What inspired you to become a coach and then start your own coaching business?
That's a really good question because it was probably back in, I think it was 2014 or 15 when things were changing. And I noticed that the companies that I was working with, the recruitment was starting to change. There was that applicant tracking system, the ATS that was coming in. So regardless of that was coming in, not all companies were buying it, but they were kind of using it when they needed to and kind of not using it when they didn't need it to. They kind of copy pasted the existing and we went on from there. And then what happened with the candidates that were job seekers, they were beginning to shop. They're shopping for work. So basically what happened was that when I had a 3-month mission to find a job, that 3-month mission turned into a 9-10 month job. Why? Because it was really hard with this change in the environment and also socially and economically to find that match quickly. You had the job seeker that wasn't really committal, and the company that thought, oh well, we'll just do it the old-fashioned way and use technology when we can. And it was at this point I was functioning on success rate, and the success rate basically means if the company basically chooses a candidate after recruitment and they succeeded the trial period, I'm paid 100%. Okay. Well, that wasn't happening. So not only was I hurting professionally, financially, but I wasn't on any of my recruitment. And at that point, I thought I have to decide here. Do I stay in recruitment or do I leave recruitment? And deep down inside, I really liked the recruitment. I really like the fact that you help job seekers and you help companies and you kind of, try to see what the match is, prepare them and have them talk. Well, I thought I took some time off and I thought, okay, I'm going to stay. I'm going to stay and I'm going to ride this change. And to ride this change, well, I needed some training in digital marketing as well as coaching. So I basically, that was 1 year where I still worked, but I decided to kind of scale back and live from the fat and work through these 2 trainings. Why? Because I thought with this change, when we're talking about, going digital, it's going to be fast and I really want the company and the job seeker to kind of prepare for each other and not be this kind of a forced marriage type of a thing. So that was kind of a turning point where I said, yes, I like recruitment. I want to make recruitment a safe space. I want recruitment to work for both of them. I want to be an active person, active actor on this. So I decided to take a coaching. that was the turning point.
And so, right now with coaching and your experience with it through these years, been almost 6 years, if I'm not mistaken, right?
Exactly.
So, while you're going through your coaching journey with a client, what would you say about that coaching journey? Which part of it do you find the most rewarding since you started doing it?
Oh gosh, rewarding or not, I think it's gosh, I have to say, the moment when it's very conflictual, when things don't work, I like getting in there because it's like starting from scratch. You don't know what you're going into. It's like an archaeological dig, and you're trying to figure things out. And when you're in an environment like me, where there's either Slovenian or French or English, and you have a person that's born in Slovenia, but they lived in the States and now they're in France, and they have a couple life with someone else, and then they're trying to find a job. Things get a little bit complex, but for me, the most rewarding part is just getting down to the basics and see what truly the person wants. So that's from the job seeker point. From the company, often it comes down to that too. Well, what is it that you really want? And that excavation part, the archaeological part, I find very rewarding. Even though it's messy, but it's rewarding.
And to clarify also for the audience, because I did mention this on the intro, but when it comes to your ideal client profile, in the intro, we talked about multicultural professionals, expats, adult third culture kids, and we help them with career transitions. But do you feel like there's a demographic or certain industry, or you'd say that it's not really limited by that?
That's a really tough question, Regen. That's a really tough question. I would say, first of all, I would say that I go towards the problem. I have certain solution or tools, and I try to find the problem that's most adequate with the tools I have. If I were to then really answer the question as it may be, is what is the ideal client? Usually the ideal client is either bilingual or trilingual. The person is traveling or navigating different cultures, and they're either finding a job or maybe they're already in a company and the company is changing management, and they're either moving to another department or abroad. Often we're creatures of habit, and what happens that when that habit stops, it's like, what happens? You've got the first of all the language, the culture clash that happens, but in fact that's like the tip of the iceberg. It's only the tip of the iceberg. When you come down to it, there are the motivations, the desires that are super interesting. And I would say, so people who are bilingual, trilingual, who are navigating cultures, and who just want to do their job that they enjoy, because I think we're all put on this earth to do a job and to find out what is that something that we do. And I would say that would be the ideal client profile, is the person who's very motivated in opening up that space and time and saying, what is it exactly that I'm good at, with reflection questions, and then put in some languages and cultures and put that on and make it into a lovely sellable Sunday that will be productive.
How would you describe working with you? Is there a certain program of a certain length that people go through if they decide to work with you?
It really depends. Some people need a complete program, like the profile that I just mentioned, someone that's just changing. For example, I'll mention a client that's leaving the US to come to France, and they're having questions on their job, industry, on everything. So there, we're going to look at, basically, we'll do a job skill analysis and write down a roadmap. And after the roadmap is kind of fixed down, we're going to look at, well, what are some things they need to train themselves on, or maybe not, or just improve, and immediately connect with networking, how to network in that language. In this case would be how to network in French, in a French cultural way, setting up LinkedIn, how to network on and offline, because we have to realize that also being referenced and people that know us, and it's a strong point. Then we're going into the application, which I would say it's the least important, the cover letters, the letter, resume, and work portfolio. And then interviews, that would be like the biggest one. And then finally onboarding. So that would be like the complete one. And then some people, others may say, well, I know what I want to do. I get interviews. I can't survive in interviews. Well, we just do interviews. So we'll do like express coaching of a couple of sessions and just work on that. Or sometimes it's just click. how can I be clear and confident switching languages in an interview or onboarding? So, taking that long program and chopping it down, it could be just, either just working on confidence, working on networking, working on resume, or working on interviews, or maybe onboarding or getting along with your manager. So we can chop that down and just do mini sessions of that. So it really depends on the need and the context of each client.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Tanya, for explaining that. And while you were saying that, I was also thinking in terms of like the clients that you work with, since they're special types, so they're either bilingual or maybe more than two languages speaking, where do you find your clients now? Let's say what marketing channel is working? Because I feel like if you're attracting people at different languages, how does that affect marketing?
That's a good question. And I'm going to first go into inbound marketing. And you know very well, Rexhen, that on LinkedIn, you have the ability to have a bilingual profile. You have a bilingual profile, the visibility doubles. So that's really super interesting to have that bilingual profile immediately. English and French, English and Italian, English or whatever. So that's, I would say that's the first way that I get people. And LinkedIn is really undervalued. A lot of people say, oh, I don't like LinkedIn. I have had a good amount. I'm not going to say a lot. I would say percentage wise, probably 25% of people who start with direct messaging. I have also a good percentage of clients that come back, or the clients that I've had either in recruitment, like I mentioned before. I still do a little bit of recruitment. I also do some training. So I have some clients who may eventually say, well, I may be interested in coaching. So we'll be changing. I use the existing client base that I have, and then referencing, belonging to and referencing, I belong to two groups of networking. One is just for women, and that is a pretty powerful way of getting reference or getting clients. And I have to say, whether it's LinkedIn, whether it's existing client or people that you know or clubs, there's got to be trust. Trust has to be established. So if that's not there, regardless of anything, it's going to be really challenging to get that client. So yeah, to answer the question, it would be LinkedIn, followed by existing clientele, and then of course the networking with the two networking clubs that I have that work quite well.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Tanya. Thank you for explaining it. And I was thinking, when it comes to LinkedIn, you said inbound, right? Have you tried outbound before, or is just inbound?
Well, being in recruitment for such a long time, and some people may know, I am of a certain generation. We used to do cold calling, and cold calling, I hated cold calling, but I can say I hated it because I did it for such a long time. And it worked at a certain time. And, doing the brochures or going to events, I have to say events can be also very, very interesting and very fruitful. Why? Because you've got the face. And after being in COVID and being really behind the screen, to establish that trust, people like to go off and they want to see you. They want to talk to you about everything but business. And it's funny that you mentioned that, because I'll just mention a short story. I was recently at a wedding and we had a nice time. We danced. We spoke a lot about everything and nothing. And believe it or not, after that wedding, I had someone calling me for a discovery meeting, and now I'm coaching them. So don't underestimate the power of when you're in a group when you least expect it, because that's when the trust factor is so important.
Absolutely. I totally agree with you. And now, with your marketing, do you also actually focusing on the future for you for the next 1 to 3 years? Do you have any specific goals that you're working towards with your coaching?
Absolutely, absolutely. As we speak, I was already identifying the main themes for my content calendar for 2026. For the next 18 months, I have already planned out the big themes for what content is going to be. It is going to be put on every month with lives and writing and copywriting and preparing content from my case studies, from everything that's happening. Because believe it or not, Rexhen, it's the case studies and what happens to people that people are interested in. Because most people, they're looking behind screen, and it includes me. When you're scrolling and looking around, well, it could be shopping, it could be this or that. You're checking, you're seeing, does this ring to me? And sometimes the stories ring true, and that's when people like either will either send out a message, and that's where the relationship will start. And it's important to be authentic, true, and also know to say yes, and also to say, well, okay, let's talk. But then if after the 15-20 minute meeting, if it doesn't align, be honest and say, well, we don't align, and leave it there. That doesn't mean that there won't be a next time, but I believe in that, in being honest and authentic.
I totally agree with that too. And it's actually, when you think about also, since we were talking about marketing, it's what sets you apart. As long as you're authentic and not generic, also in your content, that makes you stand out. Some people might resonate with your story, might resonate with your writing, or
Mm-hmm.
so as long as you're authentic, you reach to a smaller audience. Well, actually, not really, because what I was saying is you reach to a smaller audience, but it's qualified to work with you. However, if you were being generic, you might not reach any audience at all because you don't appeal to anyone.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there's also that. Do you right now, in terms of investments that you've done in your coaching business, what would you say have been some good investments that you're proud of that have actually yielded some return? And if any, what are some bad investments that you would have preferred to have avoided?
I think the best investment that I've done, and I've done it since 2015 until today, I have a business coach who has taught me what digital marketing is, how to run a website, how to do a sales funnel, how to do inbound marketing, the SEO, and all of that. At first, I thought, oh gosh, what did I get myself into? But then I thought, when I look at the big picture of providing that safe space before recruitment ever happens, I thought, yes, these are excellent tools. So I would say marketing, digital marketing, and everything that kind of groups that is absolutely golden. And also with that, the same way, I would say my coaching school was very fruitful, and being certified is a huge plus. Why? Because when people are looking for coaches, believe it or not, they will look for certified coaches. And some people say, oh, it's just a money making thing. Yeah, I mean, if you say it off the cuff like that, but to be certified, you follow a code, excuse me, a conduct code. If there is an issue, you have a federation that's behind you, that you have the support. So those two things, I would say, hands down, they're wonderful. One investment that I did, and I did it just because I was curious, and I would say, well, maybe it was a bad investment, but any bad investment, I would say you always learn from something, is what is it called? It's learning to read behind writing. When the way a person writes tells them the personality. I would say that was not that great of an investment, but it was interesting. It's completely discriminatory in many countries that you can think of. But I thought, at that point in time, I thought, I'll take it, and run with it and see what happens. Maybe I spent too much for it, but
Mhm.
it was a good learning point, and I really don't use it at all.
Yeah. It's one of those investments that you like, even if you hadn't done it, it would still be fine.
Right.
Interesting. I didn't know such thing existed, but yeah, I might need to look up what it could actually mean, how to understand behind the writing, not just like the words, but how it actually, how the person writes. So,
Yeah.
and understand them. So yeah, thank you for sharing that. So right now, what would you say in your coaching business, thinking with that business hat, what is a challenge that you're trying to solve for next short term? Where do you see the bottom in your business right now?
Well, I would say that considering the geopolitical situation in the world today, I'm going to be quite honest, and it's hard to get clients right now. It's really tough. So really focusing on even less content, but very quality content, and speaking on things that ring true, and kind of doing more of a micro content creation, micro calendar themes, where I'm posting less actually, but what I'm posting is a lot deeper. It's not just, like the top of the sales funnel. For those of you who are listening and know what a top of a sales funnel, I think it's tofu. I'm going a lot deeper. I'm going into the middle to lower, and really focusing on the emotion of, why am I still unemployed? And I've gone through so many interviews. That's across cultures now. And what is the difference between interviewing in German or in France, but I'm still interviewing in English? So getting a lot more deeper, or The fact that, okay, I have 3 languages in my resume. So what can you do with it? Go deeper. And instead of saying I can translate it, I can speak, well, what did you actually do with those languages? What did you do and what kind of results came out of that? So really being more deep, authentic in the content creation and the micro prospection, and the anything that I do will be on a small scale but deeper.
Mm-hmm. And for the people listening to this podcast, which generally uh, might, let's say, speak only English, do you find that in Europe, and this is a question just like out of curiosity, do you find that in Europe and in the countries where you've been, do you find that it is a big challenge for them to get to transition in a career in a country, for example, let's say France, where it's French speaking? Would you say it's a big challenge for them to actually transition their career from US to, let's say, France and continue in English?
Yes and no. It really depends on the mindset of the person. I can have a person who is dead set in saying, I'm going to move and I'm going to go do A, B, C, and 1, 2, 3. And when someone like that, which I'm speaking of a client that is already here and doing it,
Mm-hmm.
it's going to be, there's going to be a flow. There's going to be an ease versus someone who is maybe not as, is also motivated, but is really lost and has a lot of emotions. The emotional bag is there, and which is completely normal. And you always think, am I have worried about the accent and worrying about, is the industry the same as there? And uh, that can happen as well, where things are going to be a little bit choppy, a little bit difficult. And that's why it's important just to go beyond the language and culture and say, what do you want? Because whatever you want, eventually that's going to show through wherever you are, be it in China, Taiwan, Chicago, or Paris. That's going to come out. The rest is just tools and structures that we all have to navigate. It's just that with the mindset, what's the mindset that you bring into it? Is it going to be the mindset of, yeah, it's going to be simple, but it's going to be hard, but I'm ready for it? Or is it going to be like, ooh, I'm not sure, and anything in between. So I really accompany like a rainbow of different types. And it really starts out with that mindset. And sometimes people are just scared, and that's completely normal. I've been there, I've been scared. But to have someone who just listens, ask questions, say most of the time, 80% of the time, people figure that out. My clients figure it out in the first session that, oh, okay. So I hope I'm answering your question. So it really
Mm-hmm.
depends on the mindset, but in general, the confidence is there, the motivation is there, the partnering is in place. It will work out. For some, it's shorter, others is longer, and anything in between.
Interesting. Thank you. Thank you so much for sharing that. And right now, well, actually, when I was thinking of the question is also, and you brought a very good point, which is mindset and like setting up the actual expectations for when going to a completely new country, when going to either thinking about, are you going to speak French, or are you just going to do it in English, or are you going to do both? And yeah, just being prepared for all of it. Right now, for every coach listening out there, what advice would you give to those coaches like yourself around your level that are looking to further scale their impact?
Start where you are with what you have, and usually it's right underneath your nose. And I say it with all due respect because I was told this and it's true. So I say this to all of those who are starting. Start simple, hence TePe Talks. Why? Because TePe can handle only one thing at a time. So just start small with one thing and take baby steps. At least you're moving. When you hear people saying, I sell coaching overnight and I've done this overnight in 48 or hours in 1 week, be inquisitive, ask questions, and really be dubious about it. So I would say start where you are, choose one thing, and baby steps are better than no steps at all.
Absolutely. As long as you're moving forward. Yeah. Or as long as you have that feeling that actually you're making progress. Thank you. Thank you for that advice.
If I can add another thing, is to be with a great group of people. And that's important because often we may not notice that. We may be in a certain mind state, in a situation where something's happening and we're not 100%. And having a certain entourage of people may bring us down or up. It's important to evaluate that you're with the right people that bring you up and not down.
Yeah, being with the people that your values kind of like are not in conflict, where your values are aligned together with this group of people. So thank you so much, Tanya, and thank you for coming to the podcast. I think this was a lovely conversation. And for anyone who's listening and wants to connect with you or find you, they can go into LinkedIn, look up Tanya, and Tanya Podvrsan is how you would pronounce it, but you'd spell it Tanya Podvrsan, and they'll be able to find your profile there in France. So thank you so much, Tanya. Is there any other way people could connect with you if they wanted to?
I'm also on Instagram, and I have a website, so you can just put in tepetalks.com. You can find me there as well.
Cool. TePe We'll also put that into the description. So thank you so much, Tanya. Thank you for your time today. It was lovely.
Thank you, Rexhen. It's been a pleasure.
That's it for this episode of Career Coaching Secrets. If you enjoyed this conversation, you can subscribe on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you're listening to this episode to catch future episodes. This podcast was brought to you by Purple Circle, where we help career coaches scale their business to $100,000 years, $100,000 months, or even $100,000 weeks, all without burning out and making sure that you're making the impact and having the life that you want. To learn more about our community and how we can help you, visit joinpurplecircle.com.